Polski skrytowca.
The cheerful Evil was pleased with this support. An assassin was a decent melee fighter, but its actual strength lay in its ability to make itself invisible. This was, of course, tested out immediately.
Dobra, będziemy się bawić w małego Assassin's Creed'a tutaj. Skrytobójcą.
Despite the powerful invisibility skill, it was advisable for the ultimate evil to be cautious. Some opponents had such highly trained observation skills that they were actually able to see invisible units.
Awro. Fartem.
A locked door prevented the assassin from progressing. It would have taken a long time for him to have opened it with sheer brute force using weaponry. Thankfully, he had a suitable skill with which he could deactivate doors, and more importantly, traps. There are enemies in your dungeon.
Zmieniąc. Andok uwielbia bić sprzymierzeńców. Masz piękny tytuł. Działa na nie opancerzone ta jednostka. Uwielbia młócić tych ubranych w szaty, aż odpadną z nich łaszki. Jedno... Czarodzieje. Fajnie, Orlando, fajnie. Dobra, Szurek i Słodzio, musicie się zająć kopaniem. Złotka.
It's payday.
A ta już... Co dać? Żałość. Muszę powydobywać tego złota więcej. Skrytobójcy.
There are enemies in your dungeon. A Gobobot was being forced to make miserable repairs in the lodge. A brief feeling of what it thought might be sympathy passed through the sensitive evil, but this actually turned out to be a mighty belch. Naturally, it would free the useful Gobobot anyway. Elated by the assassin's attempt at rescuing it, the Gobobot joined the horde and succeeded in showing its tormentors a real hot time. Its ability to more or less ignore ranged damage and set fire to large areas would come in very handy. There are enemies in your dungeon. The first hospital bed had been built. Wounded units could now be healed in the hospital. Little Snots would also be able to bring defeated creatures here so that they could be nursed back to health. The hunting lodge was completely destroyed. The vengeful evil gave itself a very self-satisfied pat on the back. The time was right to concentrate on King Robert. He was in his renowned garden reciting his much less renowned love poems. The lyrically challenged evil had no time for poetry and would soon make this tangibly clear to him. The king was accompanied by a pixie who was able to cast powerful healing magic. Any direct attack would be suicidal. Mercifully, the omniscient and helpful narrator was at hand. He pointed out to the impatient evil that the pixie went off from time to time in order to check that all was well, and much more importantly, eat her supper in a little camp to the south. One would think the killing of fragile... The pixie buzzed over to eat her meal. The ultimate evil prepared an ambush.
Roses are red and later they'll brown. Give me your heart, else I'll steal it.
Payday! And so the negligent evil promptly allowed the only really vital unit to this mission to die. The goblin leader sighed and put his second best assassin at evil's disposal at the basement exit.
Roses are red, tulips soft. Loose and ways from your belly do.
Co widzimy, się dzieje?
There are enemies in your dungeon.
Oh, Jesus Christ, enemies in your dungeon. Dobra, sami się zabili.
spoken her last healing spell. The crafty-minded evil sculpted a fan from her wings. Now it was time to look for King Robert and ensure his early demise.
Roses are red and later go brown. Give me your heart, else I'll steal it and your gown. Roses are red, tulips oft, loose and wet.
Ekipy. Musimy tego oka. Z jedną łóżko szpitala. Co? Letymy.
Roses are red and later go brown.
Daj mi swe serce, by cię skradł. Szatę też.
And your gown.
Z bok. Dobrze, że muszę się go pozbyć. A! Wsparcie! Go! Spalić gnoja.
King Robert fell, and the ultimate evil had received its well-deserved revenge. But there were still many more heroes out there who deserved to bite the dust. Their time would come.
Ja!
The
Victory!
demigod Krotos, one of the sniveling cowards who had banished the ultimate evil, had just marched his alliance army out of the swamplands to fight the snake-like Nagas. The ultimate evil wanted to teach him the full futility of war by ensuring his untimely King Robert was defeated, but there were more heroes whose life the ultimately vindictive evil was after. Here in the swamplands, the demigod Krotos was just leading the Alliance's troops against feral Naga clans. They had retreated here after the collapse of the Dark Army. It would seem sensible to first strike an alliance with these Nagas before the impatient evil squared up against Krotos. Gold-greedy evil built the first underground treasury, thus laying the foundations for insane amounts of hoarded treasure.